Hello everyone and welcome back to another exercise. For this exercise we're going to be making a fly swatter, and the base for that is actually a plane, not a cube. So go ahead and get rid of that and then add a plane. And then move into edit mode. Now the first thing we're going to do with this, we actually need a little bit more geometry here than just the standard 4 corners. So we're going to right click and subdivide. And we're going to bring up the subdivision menu and we're going to change this to 10. And this should give us some nice geometry to work with. And so we're going to toggle faces, select that center, and then we're going to extend our selection out until we get a frame. And we're going to remove, and you want to remove faces, so we're going to delete the faces. And that should leave you with this nice square frame, which will serve as the body of our fly swatter. And so now you're going to toggle the point mode, and you want to select all 4 of the outer corners. And now you're going to just hit, or you're going to start a scale. And the goal here is just to make the edges a little bit more rounded. So about like that. Okay. And so now you're going to go to edges, and you're going to want to make sure you have all 3 of these edges selected. And to make sure that I'm not selecting more than I intend to, or make sure I'm going in the right direction, I'm going to go to an overhead view and I'm going to extrude these out. And so I can't remember if I talked about this whenever we talked about object mode or not, but there is actually a shortcut if you're going to be doing a lot of the same operation in order that you can use to keep going with this. And so it is Shift and R. And so I'm just going to go out a few times, and this is going to make the handle of our fly swatter, and just kind of eyeball it and kind of go out until it kind of feels right. So for me, this, maybe one more, that feels like a good length for a fly swatter handle. And I'm going to use the trick to shift to orthographic, just because now that our object is kind of long, it's getting a little bit unwieldy to work with. So I'm going to drag down here to the end of the handle, go into points, and we're going to do the same thing that we did with the frame we're going to scale. Now you notice I'm kind of stuck to the y-axis, and so instead now that I've scaled this in, I'm also going to grab and I'm going to clamp that to X, and we're going to bring it in, and again this is just to make a little bit more of a rounded edge. Okay, so now we're going to go to faces and we're going to delete this face. And now that we got that deleted, we're going to switch to edges, do a loop select, and extend out the selection. And now we're going to subdivide that. And this is just to give us some geometry to work with, because otherwise this next part wouldn't work. Just like with the frame, we're going to select all 4 corners and scale in to make a circle. Okay. And so for this last part, we're going to highlight everything, or select everything, and we're going to do an extrude, and you can see it's already clamped to the z-axis right here. But for this next part, this is very important. We're going to type in a number to select. So the number we want is 0.04. And you notice when I did that it actually did raise up a little bit. So we don't want this to be too thick. So now that we've got our amount that we want to scale by, I'm going to go ahead and tap Enter to finalize that. I prefer to use Enter for whenever I'm typing in specifics like that, just because it makes sure that I don't accidentally drag whenever I'm trying to left click. I'm kind of paranoid about that thing. If you want to left click, feel free. And with that, enter object mode, and I'm going to rename this frame, just so that I know that this is our fly swatter frame. And again, you don't have to do this part, but I definitely recommend kind of starting to build a habit of doing that, as it will make things a lot easier later whenever you're working with more complex meshes. Okay, and so now that we've got the frame, we're going to start building out the mesh for the Flyswatter. And to do that, we're going to make a second plane. And we're going to go into edit mode with that selected. And for this next part, I'm going to go to an overhead view. And I'm going to move into wireframe mode. And I'm going to scale until it just barely overlaps. I want it to overlap a little bit. I don't want it to be right at the edge flush. I want there to be a little bit of overlap, but not too much. So there we go. And now I'm going to go ahead and switch back into solid mode. I lied. Let's go back to wireframe, because the next thing I want to do, let's go to a front view, and we're going to move this up 0.02. And if you did things right, and let me zoom in, this is how you know you did things right. You should have your mesh right in the middle of the frame. Okay, and so now that we have our mesh positioned correctly, we're going to go back to solid mode, and with this still selected, we're going to subdivide, and we want a lot of subdivisions for this, so I'm going to go all the way up to 20. Okay, and so now with our mesh still selected, we're going to start an inset. And you actually, before I do that, you may want to zoom in for this. So you want an inset, and you want to make sure to tap it again so that you get individual faces. And this is supposed to be the mesh, so you want to keep things, you want the mesh to be fairly thin. Like, you don't want to go all the way to that or anything. So just about like that. And with all your interfaces still selected, just hit your delete button and make sure to hit delete faces. Alright, and so move back to object mode, and we are going to rename that from plane. It's no longer a plane, it's our mesh. Okay, and you'll notice that, I mean, it's not a very pretty Flyswatter. Like, it kind of looks like something that you would 3D print. Even if you try to shade smooth, whoops. I mean, you notice it's kind of weird. Don't worry about that for now. Like, don't shade smooth, keep it shaded flat. We will revisit this once we start talking about modifiers, and we will add some details to this to make it a little more pretty. For now, just go ahead and use, oops, wrong shortcut. Use Control S, or you can go up to the File menu and use Save As, and just save that as Flyswatter for now. Alright, and once again, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you did, and I will see you during the next exercise.